MMAfighting.com, and we are in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, ahead of UFC 242. And we're going to take a closer look at the card with one of my former colleagues and one of my best buddies in the game, Mr. Shaheen Al-Shatti of The Athletic.
Look at this,
what a beautiful moment this is. Did you cry a little bit before you got here too?
I've missed you so very much.
Listen, let's talk about that
all
later.
All of you people have missed you so very much.
It's Casey and the wonderful Esther Lynn. We're all here together. It's like a little family. But we have some pertinent issues to talk about with this UFC 240. Is that not a good word?
Pertinent? No, I liked it a lot.
I can explain it to you.
Please.
No, I don't want to get into it.
Well, but anyway, I don't know why you volunteered that then.
We have to talk about this amazing event that's taking place here. And it's quite, it's been quite, well publicized that Khabib is going to be the big superstar here. And, we went to the weigh-ins and we saw that reaction, I think, in the fullest form today. It kind of felt electric when we were there today, didn't it? When he came out, that was the first time I was like, this could be a really magic event if everything goes according to plan, that is. What did you think of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's something we've sort of seen kind of build throughout the week. From the beginning of this week, I mean, open workouts in the Yas Mall, you could see the turnout. People were excited to see, Dustin Poirier and all these guys, but it was when Khabib or his guys, Islam Makhachev, Zubair Tukhugov, whenever they showed up, they were being treated as absolute rock stars. And then we saw it at Media Day. There was a giant swell of disappointment when Khabib didn't talk amongst all the Russian and Arabic media, because that's pretty much all the reason they were here. And today at this arena, it felt, I hesitate to use this word because it feels almost cliche, but it felt Conor McGregor-esque just in terms of the reaction. Because we've been inside the arenas for those weigh-ins and they feel different, they feel electric in a way that maybe most don't. This absolutely felt like it today, and it was really the first sense that I've gotten all week that, wow, this is actually a really, really big deal, and it's going to be a big deal, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at these kind of events, I mean, obviously you had McGregor in Dublin, even Till in Liverpool. It kind of does put these guys across as global superstars. When people can watch it on their TVs, people losing their minds just by having this guy in the building, and that's pretty much what happened at the weigh-ins. But, I mean, do you think that there's a lot of pressure on Khabib here? I mean, it feels like everyone I talk to, any locals I've spoke to over here, the only fighter they know is Khabib. And it's like Khabib smash. Like they don't really see Dustin Poirier as a live challenger. They think this is all set up for Khabib to win. What do you think of that? Like, I mean, is that a lot of pressure for a guy to bring into a fight? And he hasn't really had that before, because even at 229, even though a lot of people favoured him, it felt like a lot of the fans were on McGregor's side.
Absolutely. I think there's an unbelievable amount of pressure on him in a couple different levels, and it's actually something I've sort of kind of figured out along the way, because I mean, yesterday, what is it at this point? I've kind of lose track of the days when we're over here, but I think it's Thursday. I did an interview with UAE State TV,
right? And
I was just talking to people in the actual TV studio, and it seems like everybody they've interacted with, more or less, almost kind of, I don't want to say feels like this is pro wrestling, but feels like it's pro wrestling in the sense that the outcome is already determined, and that Khabib already went in there and just smashed Dustin Poirier, and it's a done deal. That feels gravely, like to jump to that conclusion is a grave mistake, and I feel like that's sort of just the prevalent thought in going into this event from a lot of these people who, like you said, this isn't a sport that's really huge in this part of the world yet. I think there's definitely potential for it to become that, but it's not there yet. And a lot of these people only know Khabib, they only know Islam and Zubair and these guys in this sort of circle. I feel like there's an unbelievable amount of pressure on him, not only to just carry the event, but to really just be his dominant, usual self against a guy in Dustin Poirier who is streaking to an unbelievable amount, to the point where if Khabib Nurmagomedov didn't exist, Dustin Poirier would be a guy who we would be singing his praises so damn much with what he has really become in this lightweight division. His last 4 fights, Petesy, Alvarez, and Holloway, he's looked like an absolute destroyer. What he has blossomed into at this point is, I think, far beyond really any of our wildest imaginations when we've really thought of what his ceiling was. He's a live dog, man. He's absolutely a live dog, and to assume that he's not is an incredible amount of pressure to put on Khabib. Also, you have to point out, this is the first time Khabib's father is going to be in his corner. And Khabib's father, I mean, you and I...
What a presence.
He has a hell of a presence to him, man.
I'm terrified of him.
It's almost, I don't know how to describe the presence. It's almost like a shadow that sort of looms over everything and kind of just hangs in the background. I can't imagine that, there's no way that that's not on Khabib in some level.
Absolutely.
Just even if it's periphery stuff, like those things add up, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it does feel like this, as you said there, this is their big introduction to the sport, and I know they've had 2 events here previously, but you know, speaking to journalists that have been here before, but this feels like it's way bigger. As you said, you were on Abu Dhabi TV. They said that this is the first time they've ever had something like that, and it's like a dedicated channel going around the clock. The first night I got in here, I went to get some food and like, do you want a UFC burger? You know, it's like everywhere. Everything seems to be about the
There's
UFC.
billboards all over the town right now, just of the showdown week. I think that's what the term is.
Absolutely.
It's just everywhere. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, like, as you're talking about Poirier, like, and the fact that he's been a consummate underdog. Like, all them fights you named, everybody was going, you know, they favoured the other guy in nearly every single one of them. And when I spoke to him at the media day, he was saying, yeah, I kind of love this. Like, this is not unfamiliar territory.
There's no pressure on him whatsoever.
And even Mike Brown, when he was talking to me, he was like, this is what I thrived on in my career. And even when you think about him beating Faber for the title, he was like, it makes you fight harder. You know that all the pressure's on the other guy, but even if you think back to like Faber, any of these other fights Poirier's had in the lead up to this, there's no way there has been the amount of expectation on any of those guys that have been on Khabib. And I mean, it just feels, as the week goes on, you're starting to go like, wow, people really have no idea that this guy come in, and as he put it to me the other day, he could shake up the world. And it's not that they do 2 athletes with, you know, completely like a huge disparity in their skill sets. It's just basically that this event has been made for Khabib, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's hard. I mean, we were just here a few months ago, not here technically, but we were just here with Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, where everyone had sort of already moved on to the idea that Max Holloway was going to be this interim lightweight champion.
He hadn't even fought a lightweight.
Interim lightweight champion, fight Khabib in this sort of big champion versus champion fight. Dustin Poirier lives for these moments, man. And if you just sort of view him and speak to him throughout this week, as both of us have, there is a level of confidence that this guy is carrying around right now. We talk often about that idea of someone who kind of knows something that the rest of us don't. You get that so much from this guy right now, where he's almost just grinning at all of this. I think even at the weigh-ins on Friday, he was just kind of smirking at all of this, of just like, this is what I live on. Like you said, this is what I thrive on. It's a wild dynamic, and if Khabib is able to pull through and I think win in a way that myself and a lot of people really expect him to win, that is an incredible accomplishment in of itself, just to be able to handle all of this and carry that burden while still being able to perform at a high level against probably one of the best lightweights of our era.
We got our first impression of the arena today, and
oh my gosh, yeah.
It was quite unique.
Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, we walked in, and I guess since Wednesday, the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, we kind of hearing whispers that, you know, the air conditioning wouldn't be optimized until Saturday. And as soon as we walked in
optimized.
Today, yes, optimized is a unique word to use there. But as soon as we walked
that's a generous word.
Yeah, like, I mean, we had films of sweat all over us while just sitting down, basically. So, I mean, does that feel like the right kind of atmosphere to be competing in a mixed martial arts bout to you? Because, I mean, I was just sitting there and I said to you straight away, I said, if I'm this slippery and I'm sitting down, imagine what it's like, what Dustin Poirier is going to be like to grapple. I mean, that's going to make it very difficult to get a hold of Dustin Poirier, clearly, if they don't have some type of huge revelation overnight that makes the air conditioning wonderful, right?
Yeah, it was extraordinarily hot in there. And I'm not even saying that as a complaint. I think that's more just an observation, because I don't really care. I mean, I'm not competing.
Oh, yeah.
If I was a fighter competing, though, that would be a very uncomfortable environment to be in. It was ridiculously hot in there, and it wasn't really even full either. Like, all the collective body heat wasn't in there. That will be in there tomorrow. Like you said, we were sort of covered very quickly within the first few minutes with just a fine layer of sweat.
We could see John Anik up on the stage.
Poor John Anik, man.
He was trying to get himself chilled down.
He was regretting his wardrobe choice very quickly.
We all were.
You're right, man. For a grappling wrestler-based fighter, it feels like you could be very, very slippery very quickly in a fight like that.
Yeah, and as well as that, like, I mean, we saw construction workers like asleep around the place. It feels like people are working.
Well, the
around
arena's
the clock.
not done. Yeah, the fight isn't in the arena that it was supposed to be in.
That's right.
It's sort of in a makeshift arena across the street.
A lovely tent.
Yeah, it's a tent.
Yeah,
it's kind of just a tent, and it's extraordinarily hot. Like you walk around Abu Dhabi and it's oppressively hot. Like you can't really do much. Like, for example, today I checked out the beach just for a second, and I was at the beach for like 30 minutes, and I was just like, I gotta go, because at some point you're just like baking in the sun, and I don't have a way to articulate to people who aren't here how actually ridiculously hot it is. It's hard to do things outside, and that translates in that arena, man, because it's just like you said, a tent. It's just a tent, and it's ridiculously hot inside there. I feel like that. There's no way that's gonna feel normal to all of these guys who are used to competing in, these air conditioning big arenas.
Well, like, I mean, if it's one thing for Dustin Poirier from Louisiana, but then you've got poor Paul Felder there in the co-main event, a man who might even be a bit paler than myself, which is quite miraculous at this stage. I mean, but this fight seems to be, like, when we saw those guys walking out, it seems like everybody just loves Paul and Edson. Everybody was standing up and cheering them on, and I mean, I really think, when I think about their first fight, it was like I was calling it a circus of spinning techniques the first time I saw it. But I think it's going to be way different this time, because Felder has really changed his game. He's had a lot of success in the clinch and on the ground. Like, I mean, are you expecting a very different kind of fight this time around?
I think, to me, this fight's fascinating because the dynamic on it has completely flipped on its head. I spent some time this week with Paul in his hotel early in the week, and he's in a completely different place in his life than when this fight first took place in 2015. That was his third UFC fight. He was coming off of that spinning back fist over Danny Castillo. He was just sort of this theater guy who kind of found his way in MMA. He was almost too eloquent to really
spectacular, as well, because his style was all based on like the spins. When he came in, he was like a knockout artist. That's the way it was just seen.
Absolutely, right? But also just himself as a person. He was almost like too eloquent to really fit in with this rogues gallery that our sport kind of is.
Right.
And he even said to himself, to me, that he just wasn't ready. He, like, in retrospect, actively was very much not ready for a fight of that caliber, a spotlight of that caliber, because that was on one of those big Fox shows. And it shows. I mean, he watches that fight now and he's embarrassed by it.
That was funny. He said that to me as well. He goes, like, when I look back at those spins, like, they're stupid. Like, he's like, these are ridiculous. Like, I don't even
they were not going to work.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the catalyst for him, because after that fight, if you remember, he lost a split decision to Ross Pearson, basically, I think like 6 weeks later. And then he sort of became a nomad and just decided, I need to get out of my comfort zone. I need to leave Philly. He was sort of still in that homegrown Philly situation. And he just kind of started traveling around. I mean, he was with Cowboy in Albuquerque for a little bit at the BMF Ranch. He was with Mark Henry and Ricardo Almeida up in New Jersey for a little bit, where he was the primary sparring partner of one Edson Barboza, which that's interesting in and of itself. And then he ends up at Rufus Sport, and ever since really he's just started branching out, he's become a destroyer at lightweight, man. He is really on a run at lightweight that's pretty extraordinary, considering. I think I don't hold the Mike Perry fight against him, because that was at welterweight. There was a lot of circumstances going on. Broke his arm in the first round too, and he still broke his arm in the first round. He ended up going the full distance. Like, dude,
he's tough as old boots. There's no doubt about that. Yeah,
tough as old boots. I like that. He's a tough bastard, man. And on the flip side, when this fight first took place in 2015, Edson Barboza was really just hitting his prime. Like, he was emerging as a real contender, a real force in this lightweight division. You look at it now, though, he's hit a really rough patch in his career where his last 5 fights have not gone the way that he has really wanted. The dynamics have just completely reversed to me, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, and he's gone to ATT now as well. So, I mean, I think he's looking for a big change. I think he just needs a fresh pair of eyes on him. So maybe we're going to see a different Edson on Fight Night. Who knows? But moving down through the card here, Islam Makhachev, the reception he got today was, like, it was pretty startling, right? Because we haven't seen him have that kind of an adoration. And we've definitely known that he is considered a huge prospect by the Russians. In Europe, people often talk about him. But I mean, this time it really felt as though here he is. Like, I mean, even as you said, at the workouts, and then today at the weigh-ins.
He's getting the second biggest pop of anybody this whole week.
That's true. But I do think, and after speaking to Davi Ramos, I have to say, I mean, he feels as though that wrestle-heavy game that Islam brings plays right into his hand, because he's so savvy on the ground. And I mean, he convinced me when he was talking to me. I was like, yeah, he's really happy about this. Like, he really feels as though if Islam plays the game that he usually does, very takedown heavy, that's going to play right into his hands. I mean, are you expecting Islam to show us a different side? Maybe you can see a striking advantage against Davi?
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure. It's like you said, David Ramos is the type of guy who, during his off time from MMA, just going to go and win a jiu-jitsu tournament just for fun.
Like, he's incredible.
He's no joke down there. To me, it's been kind of fascinating to watch what's going on with Islam and Zubaira both, because these are, I think, more periphery figures when it comes to MMA. Like Islam's, I think, maybe number 15 in the rankings, whatever the rankings mean. But
just
like
probably threw him in there this week.
Yeah, right.
It's all the way it happens.
But like neither of them are real contenders yet. But they're being treated like rock stars here. Like the shadow of UFC 229 and that post-fight brawl looms large over all of this. And we were even at the weigh-ins when they were showing a video package before Khabib and Dustin came to weigh out, and it was obviously the Conor McGregor submission, and then Khabib flying over
that's
into
what
the
got
cage.
the big pop.
And that's what got the pop. It wasn't him submitting Conor. It was when Khabib jumped over the cage and all of that started going. That was what elicited the biggest roar from the crowd up to that point.
Just to witness that moment was quite startling, actually.
That was surprising to me because I would have expected that the submission would have gotten the pop and not that. So it really feels like I said that the shadow of really what happened at UFC 229 last year in that brawl has magnified all of these guys in a way that almost feels like premature, right? Because they're not there yet. At least those two aren't quite there yet. But it's going to be cool to see kind of what they can do with it, because they're kind of on borrowed time. Like they're on maybe not borrowed time, but extra time. Right. Because if you remember after that event, Dana White's exact quotes were, "Those guys who were in the cage will never fight for me again, ever."
Yeah.
It's been less than a year, and they're both fighting. So I mean, what can you say?
I don't know if Islam was involved, right? I think they cleared him, but Zubaira was certainly. We saw him get into the cage. But I mean, hey, Lerone Murphy comes in here. And I think he might have been even reluctant to tell this story initially about being shot in the face and then spitting out the bullets.
Story.
I mean, you have a huge piece out there with The Athletic at the moment about it. It's incredible. You should check it out. But this guy, every time, like just after that story came out, I feel like people keep saying to me, like, that English guy, wow. You know what I mean? It feels like a lot of people are jumping onto this story. But I mean, it's also a guy that a lot of people won't know. A lot of people in the US won't have heard of this guy. They will have heard of Zubaira, but Lerone is known as a knockout artist. And speaking to his coach today, Carl Prince, he said, it's over in the second round. These are 100% confident going in here. They seem absolutely unintimidated by the home support or partisan support that Zubaira will get. And, you know, it feels like Zubaira has to come out and prove a lot because he is getting this huge, you know, attraction from all the people here. How do you see that one going? Like, I mean, should it just be a pretty quick win for Zubaira, given that he's been in the UFC for longer? Or do you feel there's an upset after speaking to Lerone?
Well, it's funny you say that he doesn't feel like he's intimidated by all of this, because, I mean, what would really intimidate the guy, right? Like, that dude has a superhero origin story that would be hard to believe if you just saw it in the comic books.
It's a miracle. Make comics about
that
him.
Is genuinely the best nickname that I could imagine for that guy. If you guys don't know his story, dude gets shot square in the face twice in the jaw, man. Like, It wasn't even like a grazing horizontal type of thing. Like, it just went straight into him, spits it out, the bullets, and gets into his friend's car and drives to the hospital, where he ends up being in a coma for 2 days. Finds MMA like 5 months later, which is like, you shoot me in the face, I'm not doing anything 5 months later. Like, I'm still in my house. Like, he finds MMA 5 months later and just wins a fight a few months after that. Dude's undefeated. He has never lost a fight. I have never actually, he's from the European scene, so you're probably more familiar with him than I am. This is sort of my first interaction with him. So I'm not quite familiar of his fighting style and really him in the cage. But he has an incredible effing story, man. Really, truly incredible story, and what he's been able to do. I mean, he's only been a professional for 6 years.
Undefeated, too.
So to get here so quickly, I have my eyes on that guy.
Absolutely. Another guy who's really kind of warming up to the Abu Dhabi crowd is Merbak Taisimov. Merbak's just coming off USADA ban. He spent most of our interview the other day saying, like, you know, I'm not this person. This has really affected me. Like, I feel like everybody thinks I'm this guy, and I'm not this guy. And he says he's cleared his name with USADA. But he is this guy that the thought on him in Europe is, if he could travel to the US, if he had a US visa, he'd be right up there. He's on a 6-fight winning streak at the moment, and he has a touch of death. I mean, when this guy hits people, they are out cold.
Yeah.
But, you know, you feel like he might have his hands full here with Diego Ferreira, right?
I mean, I feel like people perpetually sleep on Diego Ferreira. Like, he is genuinely a great fighter, and he's on a really good run himself. But I agree with you. I mean, Taisumov is a monster in weight. She's a monster in line, man. Like, that 6-fight streak that you mentioned, most of those are stoppages, and most of them are just like extraordinarily violent stoppages. It's really a shame that we can't see what this guy's capable of. I know that he's sort of even talked about mulling retirement if none of this works out, because he's kind of just spinning his wheels at this point. He seems like he's been treading water for a long time. He's getting like one fight a year for the past several years, and it's very frustrating as an observer to just see him get stuck in this situation, because when he fights, you can tell, man. You can tell that I want to see him against, these top 10 guys. I want to see what he can actually do. And until he gets that visa situation figured out, he's probably not going to get it, because he's kind of just getting stuck fighting these 15 to 20 ranked guys who are always going to be tough, like a Ferreira. But
it's hard to get excited. He used to say that to me. Like, he's like, I can't get fired up for this. Like, I mean, what am I going to get?
Because what if, say he wins, right? Where are we?
We'll get you Des Green in Russia.
There you go. Exactly. That type of thing. We didn't learn anything we didn't already know.
Yeah.
And he's still in the same spot. It's so frustrating with that guy.
Yeah, but like, I fully took your point that Ferreira was a good match and a very tough fighter, and he is. But today's weigh-in, I just like, this isn't the way to go into a fight with Taisumov. Like, I mean, he struggled to make it to the scales there.
Yeah,
as far as I was concerned. Like, I mean, his coach was holding him basically until he got in the scales, and I just think that's a rough way to go into a fight like this.
I will say, Ferreira's camp, Fortis MMA, has been on fire this year, man. Saeed Sawad over there, the coach, is just flying under the radar as one of the best coaches in the sport at this point. He has just raised a stable of homegrown killers, and they are all destroying this year. It is unbelievable to watch really how quickly that camp has risen up. And I think within the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing champions emerge from that crop. I mean, you got Jeff Neal, Macy Chason, I think is how you say the last name. A bunch of different individuals coming up in that camp that are finding immense success in the UFC early on.
Right. Now, this is the first time we've had 2 previous events in Abu Dhabi, but this is the first time we're going to see women's MMA. Sorry, my throat is happening with this dry weather. But this is the first time we're going to see
dry weather.
I'm telling you, well, it's different. It's certainly different. But this is the first time we're going to see women's MMA fights here, and I mean, I think one of the best, one of the great striking matchups you could put on in that division without Valentina being involved is, of course, Joanne Calderwood, against Andrea Lee. And it's funny, right? Because we both said this to each other today. It feels as though Andrea Lee, in everyone else's mind, she can leapfrog into a title shot here, but she doesn't seem really too hot on that idea. I mean, she didn't completely dismiss it to me, but I mean, it felt like she was saying, well, you think that, so maybe it's a thing, rather than, yes, absolutely, I can get into Valentina after this if I beat Joanne.
It was surprising honesty from her, I will say. I mean, I was taken aback a little bit.
Yeah, it was refreshing, yeah, absolutely.
Because it reminded me of when Kyoji Horiguchi was in consideration to fight Demetrius Johnson, and he was, I'm not there yet. Like, I want one more fight, give it some time. He ends up getting rushed into it, and we all know what happened there.
Yeah.
That was exactly what happened when I talked to her. I mean, I more or less laid it out to her that, this division's wide open right now, and you're probably on the best streak, and you also haven't fought Valentina. There's a good chance that if you win this, you're probably the next in line, right? And she very blatantly was just like, that's cool, but I'd rather just take one more. Like, I'm not there yet. And she kind of explained it to me that it's more on the promotional side. She didn't feel like she was really there yet with the fans, and that she had gotten maybe the shine.
She wanted to build her brand,
yeah, wanted to make it a bigger fight when she eventually got there. Although she did also acknowledge that she just wants more cage time. I think in general, Valentina Shevchenko just looms as a giant in this division. And if I would imagine if you're underneath that, you need to feel truly ready in the way that like a Horiguchi with the Demetrius Johnson type of thing, where, okay, I'm absolutely ready for this challenge. Let's take it on. I don't think she's there yet, but I don't know that she's going to get an option, because if you get offered that UFC title fight, you kind of got to take it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you don't know what the next time that's going to come around.
Yeah.
And if she wins, I feel like she's going to get offered that, man.
And I felt as though, to be honest, if Joanne Calderwood had defeated Chikagian, I felt she was going to go straight in there. And I mean, it's people probably don't rate this win as highly as I do, but the win over Ariane Lipski, who was a KSW champion, she was a destroyer in Europe. Like, I mean, I talked to Guilherme Cruz an awful lot about her. We thought she would go into the UFC and do serious damage, but just whatever happened, well, she ran into Joanne Calderwood, who looked fantastic. That fight was just masterful from her. And even when we spoke to her about Chikagian the other day, you can see she's frustrated. She still feels as though she won that fight. And whatever way you score it, I just don't see this as a walk in the park for Andrea Lee at all.
No, not at all.
Not at all, but I mean, I feel like it's a very entertaining striking fight, but won't be the first women's fight ever in Abu Dhabi. It's Liana Jajowa. I don't know if you know much about her, but she's an uber prospect. I do a list of prospects from Europe every year, and she was
fantastic stuff, by the way.
Thank you very much. I made him say that. I paid him. But anyway, Liana Jajowa was in there, and she looked tremendous. She went in and upset the champion in Fight Nights Global, and I just feel like Sarah Moras has a really, really tough assignment on her hands, especially she's on a 3-fight losing streak, you know?
And she missed weight. And she missed weight today.
And you're getting this uber prospect that nobody's really heard of. That's probably difficult to find film on it, really, you know what I mean? It just feels like a very hard out. But I mean, it surely is a good moment for women's MMA that this is happening now. I think a lot of people, when it wasn't happening, they talk about it a lot. Like, this is sticking out like a sore thumb, you know, in maybe 2014 or something. But it feels right. It feels about time that they do these things, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's been cool to be over here and see that's actually being celebrated.
Yes.
Like, we're seeing it in the national newspapers for the UAE,
Absolutely.
newspapers and things like that, articles about, you know, history in the making, the first women's fights held over here, that sort of thing. So it is really cool to see the local population embrace it and really just what it means, because it seems to mean something to all of these women who are involved.
Definitely. Now, is there anything else on this card that's jumping out to you? I know we've been through a lot of fights, but is there anything else that's jumping out that you can think of right now?
I have one that I want to tell you about. Don Madge, man.
Oh,
He is
yes.
Curtain jerker. He is opening this card.
Handsome.
Very handsome. He's hashtag Team Handsome all the way. He's a model. I mean, he's been.
So am I. I'm on Team Handsome.
Yeah?
Is that? Yeah.
What's your
I'm
going,
just trying to
what's your
clarify.
going rate? Like, you making good money on that?
I don't want to get into it, you know what I mean? Because
Well,
maybe
you know,
too many
I
magazines.
don't want to talk finances.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. You know, leave that. I'll tell you later, okay?
Yeah.
But please
Show
tell
me some of
more.
your portfolio.
Yeah. I'll just take my top off now. But please tell But please tell me more about Don Madge. I'm sorry, the Magic Man, Don Madge. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of Team Handsome, I mean, he's a guy who could be extraordinarily marketable for the UFC moving forward. That's not where I expected to start this conversation, but you kind of led me down this road. He is a model. I mean, he's been on the cover of Men's Health. He's been on the cover of GQ in South Africa. But that's what really the main focus of where I want to talk about.
Didn't he tell you not to mention this? I believe that's what he said to you. He
actually
said,
did
I don't want you to talk about my pretty face, please. Isn't that not what he said?
He specifically said,
and this is where you lead off with the guy? Oh my
well, you
God.
kind of led me down that road. But yes, he has been on the cover of the South African version of GQ and Men's Health, etc. I think Sports Illustrated too, maybe.
Yeah.
But the real point that I wanted to talk about with him, Don Madge, I don't like doing this comparison. I hate that I'm about to do it, but in South Africa, he is kind of viewed as the Conor McGregor of South Africa.
Wow.
And when I say that, I mean that he's coming from a country that historically has not had success in MMA at all. You look at the records, the combined records of South Africans in the UFC. It's before him, it was 3-10. And 2 of those wins were Trevor Prangley, like way back in the day. Like, that's the pinnacle of South African MMA.
That's insane.
Otherwise, you got like Neil Grove, Ruin Potts, like Gareth McClellan. Like, those are not household names at all. Don Madge feels to a lot of people in that area like he's the guy that's going to change this. He is an extraordinarily violent man who has a very unique story for someone from that area. I mean, he discovered Muay Thai very early, and literally the last day of high school for him, he graduated high school a year early, skipped a grade, so he was 17 years old. The moment he finished his final test, he was on a plane to live in Thailand as a 17-year-old kid, and he lived in Thailand for 4 years. Lived in a Thai camp, a pure Thai camp, by himself, didn't know the language, didn't know any of this, and just trained tons of Muay Thai. He ends up having over 100 Muay Thai fights. Throughout all of that, he only loses 4. And one of them is because he wrecked his knee in one of the fights. So that in and of itself is
For a foreigner as well going to Thailand, it's incredible.
Exactly.
Wow.
To be able to command the respect of the Thais in that way is not something you see often. He ends up coming back to South Africa and adopting MMA. And now it really feels to most of the people in that area that he is the guy. He is the guy who can change their fortunes in the way that Conor McGregor did for Ireland. And I am really excited to see what he can do, because we saw in his UFC debut, it was very telling in the way that this worked out, because the odds makers often know more than we do.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to debuting prospects, things like that. When his first fight against Tay Edwards came out and the odds opened, he was a big heavy favorite. By the time the fight came, Tay Edwards, obviously contender series guy, Western audiences familiar with him because of that. Tay Edwards was a big, heavy favorite. It had totally flip-flopped. Don Madge was like the 3rd biggest underdog on the card. ends up just head kicking the dude and just beats the crap
He
out
has
of
an
him.
amazing, exciting style. Like he's very, very exciting to watch. 100%.
It's someone that a lot of people are very high on, and he opens the show. I'm looking forward to see what he does. I think it's a big spot, and if he gets a win, I think the UFC might attach a rocket ship to him.
That's a very interesting one to look out for. But now, let me put you under the couch here.
Under the what?
Under the couch? You never heard that phrase? It's a European
idea
thing. I'm
what
sorry.
you just
I'm more
said to me.
cultured than all of you. I'm sorry, okay?
I thought you said something
I'm going to
completely
put
different.
you in the judge's chair. I don't know what to say, okay? Whatever you guys say.
I thought you
for
said
this.
something
Let's
completely
put
different
you,
to me, and
Let's
I
put you
was
in the
not-
hot seat. In the hot seat, okay? That's where you are, okay? We're talking about this main event. You've been saying all types of things. I'm getting this feeling, Petesy. I have a feeling every few minutes. I'm feeling upset on the car. Ooh. But I'm going to tell you, you have to make the peak.
I like your
Once
Sean
and for all.
Al-Shatti
It's a
impersonation.
good one, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's right there. It's right up there with my Gareth A. Davis. I'll show you that later as well. But let me tell you this. Let me ask you this even. Who do you got? When you look, you've weighed it all up. You've seen what's happened here. You know the expectation that's on Khabib. You know how much of a free spirit Dustin Poirier has been all week. Who do you think's going to get it?
First, can you give me like just 2 seconds of that Gareth A. Davies impersonation?
No, I can't. Esther's telling me no.
Okay, fair enough. We'll blame Esther.
Later.
So yes, I just don't have the balls to do it, man. I really wish I had the balls to pick Dustin because I do have a weird feeling about this fight, and that doesn't mean anything. That's such a non-thing. I have to pick Khabib just because until I see this guy lose, I don't know that he's gonna lose, right? Like we just haven't seen him really even look mortal, and so I'm gonna pick Khabib. I don't feel great about it though. I feel like Dustin is really the toughest man that Khabib has fought in his entire career by far, and he is a giant live dog, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins. I just don't have the balls to pick him. What about you?
I'm kind of the same because when you see this all over here, you see this huge structure they've built for this. You see everybody, all they know is Khabib. You see his face everywhere over here. Like when his team arrive, it's like the royals have arrived. You know what I mean? It's just incredible. And it's hard for me to think that all of this effort has gone to set him up. Like they aren't setting up for a loss. They're clearly setting him up for a big spectacle. But I just can't look past them either. And I do think, to be very honest, if we take out the intangibles, like how much air conditioning is going to be in this arena, all this kind of stuff, I think at Khabib's very best, he is definitely the best lightweight in the world. And even
Well,
though,
I would argue that Tony Ferguson is, but that's
well, that's just you know. But Poirier's looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He's looked absolutely unbelievable. But it's just so hard, isn't it? It's so hard to pick against
It is.
Khabib, even if it was Tony, right?
Well, no, that'd be easy for me.
Oh, come on, mate.
Hey man,
Come on, mate.
You gotta live the brand. I've
Oh,
been Tony
my God.
Ferguson for years. I gotta live with it.
All right, okay. But can I ask you about the co-main event as well? Just while I got
No.
you here? All right, sorry. That's the end of that.
No, yeah. I think Paul Felder takes it this time, man.
Same here, right? Because he's
It's-
just changed so much.
I think he's ready for this. Like this is a really interesting fight for him in a way that he's kind of a sneaky 35 years old. Like I didn't.
Is he?
Yeah. See,
Wow.
that's what I mean. Like
How's
you
he
don't-
so ripped?
You don't. He started so. How's he so ripped?
I mean, I was just I just got lost in his back
You know
at the open workouts. I was like, whoa.
You know
Jesus.
that Yoel Romero is like 42 years old or something, right?
What?
But it's kind of he's a sneaky 35 years old because he started late. But lightweight division's like a young man's game, man. Like there's a couple people who can sort of go a little bit longer, but for the most part, might be Paul Felder's last chance to sort of prove that he's like a top 10 guy. Because if he loses this again, he has to restart that climb and face again these periphery 15, 20 ranked guys and try to work his way back up. That's a tough ask for him at this point, especially considering it's a commentator gig and everything. He feels like this is really the moment for him to actually make that leap and really capitalize on this late part of his prime. I believe him, man. He's totally sold me on it. I think he does it.
I gotta say I do too, just based on the fact he's changed so much, even stylistically since then. And, I can't help but, take in Edson's form of late into account and the fact that he's changed gym. And, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one for him. But that's all I've got for you, Shaheen. Thank you so much, my
It was
friend.
fun, man.
It was really, really fun. And thank you so much for doing it. And you're doing brilliant things at The Athletic. And you're one of the greatest of all time in this game. So fair play to you, man. I do. You're an amazing guy.
Well,
So
thank
now
you,
I have to
brother.
look at the camera again here. I've been told to do that.
Your
but-
check's in the mail for that. I appreciate you.
No, but honestly, you know how I feel about you. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Just pan him out there, okay? Slowly. There we go. It's all me. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my UFC 242 preview with Peter Carroll and the other guy. I mean, Shaheen Al-Shatti. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And my first one ever with Casey and Esther, huh? Look at them. What an experience for you two guys, huh? Oh, wow. Thanks again. We'll see you after the show. That's all I got, guys.